What's cracking, y'all? So in today's video, we're gonna talk about why the Sony FX3 replaced my Sony A7S III. But before we start, if it would be so nice, go ahead and leave a like. And make sure you follow me everywhere, Brookssmedia with 2 S's. You ain't at the S, you ain't spelling it right. I got my phone here to take notes. I'm gonna try to keep this video under 10 minutes, I promise. I know my FX30 videos are quite long, so I'm gonna try to go ahead and make this a little bit more concise. Before we start, so I'm gonna go ahead and preface this. The A7S III and the FX3 are the same camera, just like the FX6, just like the just like the ZV-1, right? All 3 of these cameras, all 4 of these cameras share the same exact sensor, same dynamic range, S-Log3, S-Cinetone. So everything that the FX3 offers me is from a software-based standpoint only. The image quality is exactly the same, okay? Here we go. First thing I'm gonna talk about, because like I said, is everything is software-based. The first thing in regards to why I switched over from the A7S III to the FX3 is gonna be Cine EI. Just like I explained in my Sony FX30 video, and if you all didn't see that, make sure I link it up top. But Cine EI is, to me, is hands down way better than just using standard ISO for making any adjustments to exposure. Like I said before, being able to see what your image is gonna look like, even your final image is gonna look like before you get into post, and kind of seeing how much headroom you have, to be honest, is almost kind of like a cheat code a little bit. And it's almost kind of like having an ND built into your camera, right? Because no matter what, I know I'm gonna be 800 or 12,800, but if I kind of want to see how it looks, if I kind of was like down at, ISO 200, but I'm still keeping the same amount of dynamic range, so I have all the information in my shadows, that's a great thing to have. And it's letting me know, like, hey, if at 800 I'm a little high, I can kind of scroll down and kind of see what I would be when I bring it down to post. Cine EI is definitely a better tool to measure exposure in comparison to something like standard ISO. So that's number one. Number two, I feel like it goes without no surprise, is gonna be software support. The Sony at this point, the Sony A7S III, I still don't think it has gotten an update. I mean, they're still gonna update it to get breathing compensation and DCI 4K, but the Sony A7S III has been out since 2020, and I can't remember the last time that camera got an update. I want to say it was like maybe 2 years ago. Like, come on, bro. Like, at that point, it's just disrespectful. The FX3 got, DCI 4K, you got LUTs built in, you could bake it into your footage. The fact that you could turn on and off the eye autofocus while you're recording is a huge deal for me, because sometimes when I'm filming a wedding, I want to be able to like control when I want the eye focus on or not, because sometimes it'll grab onto an eye and I don't want it to, and I just have to have that control. You don't get that with the Sony A7S III. You had it with the Sony A7 IV and FX30. That's the prime example I'm talking about. The A7S III does not have that. You cannot do that while you're recording the A7S III, and I think that's kind of dumb. Now, one of the huge things that I feel like in regards to software that the FX3 has over the A7S III is gonna be the FN menu. Now, what I mean by that is, like, in the FN menu, you have a lot more options to choose from than you do in the A7S III, and the fact that you can change the recording format. So if I don't want to be in XFVCS, but I actually want to go to XFVCS HS or XFVCI, I can do that from the FN menu without having to dive into the menu thoroughly to try to look for, like, what that setting is. The fact that you can change frame rates right in the FN menu, and again, the FN menu is the function menu, that's what I call it. Now, this is gonna be like a very small thing, but also a big thing, and it's gonna be tally lights. Like, even for like you're doing client work, the fact that they actually see when the light is on, it gives them the indication, okay, like the camera's on, we're rolling, even though you're gonna tell them the camera's on. But having tally lights all around this camera, or if you have the camera off at a far distance, especially if you're filming weddings, you never have to worry about, like, man, is my camera still on? As long as I see this red light on, I know the camera's recording. On the A7S III, obviously you don't have that. There's no tally lights on the A7S III because it's on that Sony Alpha. It's still on that Sony Alpha body, so there's no tally lights. The only recording indicator that you have is the big red, box on the outside of the frame. But having tally lights, man, that's actually low key. I'm gonna keep it a buck with you. That's been a game changer for me. So to be real, for those 4 alone, that's kind of enough to kind of make me, like, jump ship to the FX3. And I had 2 A7S III, so I sold one of my A7S III, still got the FX3, and I just got a fantastic deal on it. You feel what I'm saying? Like, but like, I wouldn't tell you like to take a huge loss. Like, to me, I'm gonna be real with you, out of all the features I'm naming so far and the more that we're gonna name, I would say that the FX3 is a lateral move. So I would spend no more than maybe $700 to kind of switch over to the FX3. But if you're paying like $1,000, something like that, I wouldn't do that. No, I wouldn't do that. No, I wouldn't do that. 700 like was my max, so yeah. Next, the camera is actually Netflix approved. Like, it's on their listing. You ain't gotta sit there and say, oh, yes, the same camera as this. Like, to me, it's an upcharge, right? Telling the client that, yo, yeah, this camera's Netflix approved. That go a long way, and they kind of just give them a peace of mind, like, oh man, like, this he should need a Netflix approved camera. I don't really know if the client said it like that, but I'm just kind of giving you an idea of what like I think they say it like. So, you know, just something to think about. The next thing that I love about this camera, the fact that it's actually, you know, it has time code, right? And I've actually, now that I'm kind of like filming more short films and working with sound guys, stuff like that, they sometimes ask them like if I have time code, and that just helps them out to make sure everything stays sync in post, especially if we're handing off to an editor. Time code is actually a little bit more beneficial than I thought. You know, I kind of spoke from a very naive place about time code originally, but time code actually does have its benefits. However, I'm not saying that you still can't do like, you know, the sync in post and stuff like that, because most of these NLEs are very good at syncing your clips in post with just that. But time code is actually, you know, definitely more efficient, and it does help the sound guys. Now, my last and final reason why I upgraded, or switched over rather, from the A7S III to the FX3 is gonna be the body, right? Like the FX3 to me was definitely designed with a video shooter in mind. The A7S III is still a great camera, but the fact that the FX3 has a top handle, it comes with a top handle with the audio, if you will. It comes with the tally lights that when you hold the camera, the record button is like right next to your finger. Like it's positioned in such a way that, you know, you like, hey, this is for a video shooter, right? And this is where, and obviously we're recording this video on an FX3 just so I can run a Ceramano mic straight and directly into the camera. Now, again, you can do this with the A7S III with, you know, there's small rig adapters and the K3M adapter. You can get kind of like a very similar setup with the A7S III. However, you know, the body does make a difference. I definitely feel like I'm holding a cinema camera, if you will, a video camera, a true video camera when I had an FX3. And to be real, because of the tally lights, because of just the form of the camera itself, I don't really give people a witness no more asking me to take their picture. Because you see me, now granted, even though people would see you with a goddamn DJI, they see you with a gimbal, a microphone up top and all that, and they still ask you to take that picture. However, they really only did that with the A7S III to me so far. They haven't done that with the FX3, surprisingly, and I guess because it doesn't look like a typical Sony alpha camera, right? The A7S III still has a, you know, a viewfinder, the FX3 does not. And, you know, the A7S III doesn't have tally lights, but the FX3 does. So, you know, certain things like that, people have an indicator like, okay, wait a minute, it doesn't look like my cousin or my nephew's camera. Oh, this thing has a red light on. Oh, so this is more like it's a video shooter. But let's say if you're going handheld on the A7S III at a wedding, people are definitely gonna ask you to take that picture because it doesn't look like it's a video camera. So to me, the FX3 was definitely created with the video camera, with the video shooter in mind first. I definitely would have grabbed the FX3 first before the A7S III came out. Like, if like they came out at the same time, I would definitely have not grabbed the A7S III. The FX3 having fans built in, again, give me that peace of mind that the A7S III does not. The A7S III has never overheated on me, but the FX3 does, having a fan does give you a peace of mind that no matter what type of shooting situation I'm in, no matter how hot it is outside, I don't have to worry about my camera ever overheating because there's a built-in fan to compensate for that. So if you all were wondering like, hey, should you switch over from the A7S III to the FX3? If you are primarily a video shooter, like I don't do stills at all. I do not do stills at all. I would say yes if it makes sense, right? I can't count your pockets, but I wouldn't spend a certain amount over to upgrade from the A7S III to the FX3 just for software, but there were certain software features that gave me a peace of mind and ease of use, especially with exposure and being able to access things a little bit quicker with the FX3, and then having an upsell of Netflix approved. Those things to me definitely made up the price of what I paid to upgrade to this camera. So, but I'm curious, you know what I'm saying? For those who have an A7S III, are you guys considering jumping to the FX3? And if so, why or why not? Let me know down in the comments below. Appreciate y'all for watching. It's your boy Sean B. And again, y'all make sure you follow me everywhere, Brookssmedia with 2 S's. If you ain't at the S, you ain't spelling it right. Deuces.